Good evening. In case you're wondering why I'm just kind of so... And hello, Deacon. Unreg. In case you're wondering why I'm so... It's because the photon arrived tonight. Or this morning. And hello! Yes! The photon arrived. And this was my first print. My first print on this machine was not a calibration cube. It was not any kind of tester to make sure everything was working right. It was this exceptionally high-res, clean print. I mean, look at the buttons on the chest. I mean, you can make out, well, after I hit it with some, you could probably, zoom in. You can make out the tendons on the back of the hand. Grr. My first print. I can tell you, I severely underestimated the level of detail that thing can get. I mean, I expected it to be kind of just a kind of a misshapen blob because I did something wrong. No, I did everything right, and it's a gorgeous print. Exactly. I'm actually going to start doing higher details on my sculpts, mostly because on a lot of this detail, FDM will kind of gloss over it. Important things like faces will still be the way I do them. I'm not going to make them so overly detailed that it turns into a blob on an FDM. I don't want to completely alienate what probably is the majority of people, people at the Ender 3 in that. But I'm going to include a lot of other details that really pop and really shine on a resin printer. Mr. Squarepeg, the software, basically what it is you've got the box, it's 125 by 65 by 155. Load in your figure, rotate it how you want, go over, click, add support, go up here and click slice. That's pretty much the sum total of it. Yep, and hello, Crazy J. Yes, the first print I chose to do was the Azamar from last Thursday, or last Tuesday. The reason being, and the reason this looks blue is because the computer's trying to compensate for color. This was a print off of my CR10, and I figured that by having identical figure for print, it would be better to show my players. Now the thing is, this is not a good print. This did not come out well at all. Just to show you, come on, where's the, come on, zoom in, there. As you can see, I've got a problem on the arm here, around the waist. The knees came out kind of erratic, and it just didn't come out well at all. The face, and only the face, came out half decent. Would I recommend it? I'd recommend getting both. For one reason. I would say use the Photon for the miniatures, but use your FDM, whether it's an Ender 3 or a CR10 or what other printer you have, for things like dice towers and terrain. There's no way I could have done this on the Photon. It's just too small. Terrain, dice towers, props. I mean, if I'm going to print even terrain tiles, uses FDM because it's far too much resin to print, far too expensive to print terrain tiles on a resin printer unless you're going to be making molds of them and casting them in resin, in two-part resin. It's just, yeah. So some of you may have noticed, this right here. I'm actually sponsored by them now, but you've got to give them credit for the following. They told me that if I do a review of it, to be objective. To review it as if I had nothing to do with them. That's confidence in their product. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to make certain that I don't base all of my opinions off that one print. I might have gotten lucky on that one print. So, I'm going to do some more prints over the next week or two, and then I'm going to do a full review. I have a brief unboxing, which is basically like, look, it's a box. What do we do now, Cat? Cat tries to climb on it. Right, we open it. And then a brief shot of all of the stuff. Look, here's what came in it. And then I'm going to, print some stuff. Print one of these. With that clear anycubic green, it'll be gorgeous. Yeah, something for dimensional accuracy, definitely. Yeah. But, yeah, for the most part, I'm still just, wow. Now, tonight, I don't think I have a Patreon sculpt scheduled. I think my next Patreon sculpt is Sunday. I refuse to do a Max Z print simply because it would take forever. With the Photon, you've got your let's use this. You got your LCD screen. Doesn't matter how many things are covering it or how detailed, it goes one layer instantly. But the more layers you go, the more it takes. I'm not even coming anywhere near the top, and I've got my next print is going to take 12 hours. And that's because it's, one of the figures on it goes up way high. Now, what I'm going to be doing tonight, since like I said, I think Sunday is the next Patreon sculpt, I'm going to be going back and continuing doing, some of you may have noticed, I've done a couple sculpts for, well, the Outside Xcrew. Outside Xbox and Outside Extra are YouTube channels that are gaming review, gaming trivia, gaming fun channels. And they've recently started playing D&D. And it is magic watching 5 people who've never played before get so into their characters and having so much fun playing. So I decided I'd sculpt miniatures for their characters, because no one's done it yet. They've done fan art, but they haven't sculpted. So, and hello Mantis! Anyway, so what I'm going to be doing today is the character played by Andy. Corazon de Leon. Now, I'm not going to be quite as piratey as this, because there's a lot of other similar art out there that don't always have the coat. But I am going to be doing what I can to get that feel across. I'm going to keep the hat, because I already got the hat. I made it for the gnome. So, yeah, I have not seen Wobbly Z prints on the Photon. I see Wobbly Z mostly on the FDM printers. So, oh, and just to show you the previous prints for this, there's Luke, the half-orc bard. Yes, the half-orc bard. And then there is Elenwen, the wood elf druid, with, kind of hard to see, right on top of her head is a kitty cat. Yeah. Billy has? I'll have to ask her. Well, anyway, that is what the plan is for tonight. Is I'm going to be doing this swashbucklery rogue with a rapier.
Yay! Rapier! Woohoo! Pokey, 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 while you're weenie.
So before we do anything, we've got let's drag this to here, and we have to go to that studio. Hey, look, that studio right here. So, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in, basically, he's going to have the long coat base, because I am going to give him a bit of a pirate coat. And then in the right hand, we're going to give him a rapier. And there it is. Rapier! Whee! Pokey pokey! Now one thing, this has a morph to make it wider, because it doesn't print well in FDM narrower. So that's actually, let's drop it down. That should be enough, yeah. That should print well on FDM and regular. Now, the next thing is, I gotta import that hat. Import. And I'm going to props, fancy hat. And I have a Felitone call. Bah. Garbage. One of those scam numbers. And the fancy hat must be made visible. First, diffuse of white, ambient of black, and opacity of 100%. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to select the head, and I'm going to grab the hat and drag it onto the head over here, and now the hat is parented to the head. Also, you may or may not be able to hear my CR10 going. Like I said before, the resin might be for miniatures, but that is for terrain and dice towers, and I'm printing out a dice tower as we speak. Okay. And clicky. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to pose him. Now, I'm thinking pose him in a ready stance. Like, ha-ha! So, I do this. A lot of people I know who work in the 3D industry do this. I'm going to take the pose myself and see how my hips and shoulders are oriented. Okay. So he'll be kind of pointing. Okay, this hip is going to rotate side to side that way. That's a pretty good amount, yeah. But it's also going to bend back a little. Not a lot, just a little. Yeah. Then we're going to take this side to side. We're going to twist this one and then bend it. And then bend the foot. We're going to twist the legs, so. And hit Control D. Drop it down, and we're going to go to a front view. And that left foot is almost perfectly flat. Let's... There we go. And bend it a little bit more. we hit Control D to drop it. And now we have this foot, which we're going to bend. Actually, this foot needs to come back. The whole leg needs to come back a bit, just a little bit. Let's go to a right view. And then twist. And well, now let's go to the front view. And we need to bring it down just a little. There. Now. Okay, excellent. There we go. That's the legs and hip. But one thing, we're going to deal with the coat here in just a minute, slightly separate. Now, we're going to bend the upper torso forward, or the lower torso forward, and twist it just a little bit. Then we're going to bend chest forward a good bit, twist it a good bit more, and a little bit of side to side. Now the reason for that is that you never want the hips and the shoulders to parallel to each other on any side. Now we're going to twist the upper arm, bend the, oh, don't want to break that elbow. And then side to side the arm, or the hand. Now we're going to twist, we're going to raise this shoulder just a bit, and then we're going to twist it just a bit. We're going to raise the arm and twist it, and then we're going to bend and twist the upper arm and bend back the hand while we bend the fingers ever so slightly. Now we take the neck. We're going to twist the neck, bend and side to side. I'm going to twist the head and bend it down. And that looks like a pretty good swashbucklery pose. He's for the most part on balance, although no, he's not. We need to bring that chest forward just a little bit more by taking the abdomen and bending it a bit more. It went from 9 to, let's say, 14, so that's 5 more. And a little bit more bending. And a little bit bending backwards, because we want that kind of heroic upper. Yeah, that's good. Now, I mentioned we were going to be dealing with some issues with that coat, so let's expand from selected. Now we're going to take the shin, we're going to rotate it, make it a little bit further side to side. And the same thing with the, or not the shin, the thigh. And the same thing with this thigh. We're going to bring it forward though, and a little bit further out side to side. Because that way it'll be A little bit more dramatic. It's flowing like it's moving. Now for the expression. Right now he's just kind of slack-jawed and gormless. So let's rotate it slightly. This brow will be... Oh! Nope. This brow will be rotated that way and down just a little, whereas this one will be simply rotated up. And let's rotate it out that way, and I'm going to bring the corner of the mouth up in ZBrush so it's more like a cocky smile. So, what we do now, we go ahead and hide the hat, the rapier, and the coat. And we have our basic geometry. It's going to be a file, export. And this is going to be
Andybod. Ah.
accept. We're going to hide him, make the hat and the rapier visible. We're going to call this export. And the props. Accept. And now we're going to hide the props and the coat and make the coat visible. File, export, and the coat. Now, I may have mentioned it before, with DAZ Studio, it exports what is currently visible. So, for example, if I made him visible, but I made his head invisible, it would export exactly what you see here. So, yeah, the best FDM machine will always be a custom built at this point in time. But with machines like the Ender 3 and the Prusa Mark III, it's rapidly closing the gap. Excuse me. That was not intentional. But what is intentional? ZBrush. Right down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to import the geometry of his basic body. And then we're going to the subtool, we're going to append. And this one is going to be his coat, because we're eventually going to be merging them together much sooner. And then we're going to append another one, and this one is going to be his props. So right now, what we have is exactly what we saw in DAZ Studio. One thing we are going to do right now is we're going to go back to Andybod, and we're going to hide the rest of these, because while we have a low polygon count, I am going to go ahead and use the move tool. Let's say move topological, to tweak the rest of this. Now, I'm going to make sure that the smooth is kind of low poly, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to smooth out this brow here. Then I'm going to make this a bigger, and now, his character is a slightly more slender-jawed individual, much like he is. He's not square-jawed, per se. So we need to unsquare this jaw, which is nothing like unchain my heart. Okay, I'll go to stroke, turn off lazy mouse. Lazy mouse is something special that makes lines a lot smoother, but you don't really need it. And we're gonna make the cheeks a little bit thicker, just to help further illusion that he doesn't have so much of a square jaw. And we need to kind of tweak under here, make it one line. We also need to kind of pull this nose a little bit. Well, let's make the mouse a little bit less. Yeah, this needs to be 50. And then out just a little. And then again, this is for you FDM folks. I'm going to make the lower lip just a little bit thicker. Just a tad.
Just a tad bit thicker.
Now, he looks a lot less angry and a lot more arrogant. So now we go to geometry. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. And now that we've got it subdivided, oh wait, before we subdivide it, I need to smooth out his chest, because again, he's wearing a shirt, not a spandex super suit. Make sure that I've covered almost all of the other geometry. Yeah. Ah, that's right. I need to what's going to happen is this is all going to merge together, and then I'll be able to smooth it out and shrinky dink down the butt, because this is going to be too bubbly, and no, you don't want too bubbly on a butt, because then it starts looking funky. Okay, we go back up to maximum subdivision, which is right now 4. Delete lower, Dynamesh, blur 0, and resolution of 768. What this does, this converts it into even quads. And one of the aspects of it is it blends parts that touch. Okay, so when we look at the butt now, oh look, it's now pants. I can increase the... You'll notice I am using my tablet and not my stylus. That's because really and truly at this point in time I want the full blast bit of a mouse and not the absolute control of a tablet. Okay, now we're going to blend that neck part. Before we blend the jacket in, we've got to do pretty much the rest of the clothing. And before we do that, I'm going to get a little soda. Half a mouthful left. And no cans left. Put this in the trash can. Put this over here. Grab the 3-liter. Be a while before it disappears. So, when I look at the fan art, The fan art has him wearing a doublet with a belt and a bandolier over it, and with a small collar coming out from the doublet. Because of that, I'm going to start with the belts and the bandoliers, because we want smooth geometry for those, whereas if we do a doublet, that's not exactly going to be smooth geometry. So, we start off by shrinking the mouse, and that's about the right size for what we're going to do. And we're going to turn the focal shift on select all the way up. Turn it on full blast! And we're going to draw around where this big old broad belt. Oh. Make sure I get it all going right. And then okay, and now we go to subtool, extract, and this is going to be 0.04. Extract, accept. The reason why it's 0.04 is because the doublet is going to be 0.02. Now we go in here, geometry, and we're going to Dynamesh at 256. Dynamesh. And that's good for now. We'll come back to it. Now we go back to him, and we're going to draw on where the bandolier... Oh, I need to make it a little bit smaller. Just a little bit. And draw on where the bandolier is. We don't need to draw a lot of this because it is, in fact, mostly covered by the coat. But we need to draw enough so that it goes well into the coat. Okay, and then let's go underneath. And is it covered by the coat? Yes, it's covered by the coat. And the belt is currently going over the coat, but we'll deal with that when it comes time to deal with the coat. This is going to be extracted at 0.03. Bing. Accept. And click. And click. Now we go in here and we Dynamesh at 256. And just to remind you, Dynamesh basically converts everything into an even spread of quads. Now we're going to divide it a couple times, because what we're going to do here is we're going to start off using slash to basically turn this into our bandolier. We're going to slash to divide it up. It's going to be 1 part pouches, 1 part daggers. So let's go ahead and shrink the mouse and beer. Oh, we need a little bit deeper. One there, one there, one there, one there, and then one here, and one here. Now, we're going to use the level brush, or layer brush, stroke turned off, or lazy mouse turned off, and we're going to draw on, not high enough, it needs to be higher, shrink, and we're going to further detail these pouch lids. Okay. I'm going to Z sub, turn it 100%, and we're going to chew this down a bit. We're going to come back and smooth it out. But we want to chew this down so that we can put our basic daggers on it. Okay, now we're going to smoothing. Smoothing is at 100%. Now, we're going to kind of squiggle it back and forth here just to... And I'm going to smooth that out. We did that to kind of emphasize the difference in the layers. And we're obviously going to have to tweak some of the bottom down here. You go ahead and move okay. And then smooth that out. Now we're going back to slash just because we need to do a deeper cut beside this and beside this. And what we're going to do also is we're going to add in a little bit more detail around these pouches. I doubt that one will be poking through, but it might be. Okay, and then we're going to do we're then going back to layer, but this time we're going to add, and we're going to add on the pins, or that's too high. Yeah, we're going to add on the snaps on these pouches. Now here we're going to go ahead, we're going to draw on a nice, well actually let's do it this way. We're going to draw on a layer here. I am not going to be extracting this. And then shrink it. And then shrink it. And then I go to masking and I click invert. And I go to deformation and I inflate. Yay! It's about as thick as I want it. Yeah, it's about as thick as I want it. And then I very carefully, oh, that's way too thick. So 12, there we go. Make the mouse a bit bigger and very gently hit smooth on these edges just to make them less jagged. And then use slash, much smaller, to dig around the base of them to sharpen it off again, but this time it doesn't have the zigzag. Then let's go and slash 1, slash 2, slash 3, and smooth over these 3 slashes, because what that did, that's our holders for these throwing daggers. We're going to make the daggers with the inflate tool. Now these are throwing daggers. Now, not sneak up and stab you in the kidney daggers, because he's a swashbuckler, not an assassin. And then go back to that move. We're going to grab down here and kind of make some pointy bits. This is the kind of thing that will probably not be successfully printed by a FDM printer, but will by a resin printer. And then we're going to, let's focal shift pretty high, and let's make that, yeah. And then we're going to, no, let's increase it a lot. Okay. Yeah, we got a kind of a throwing knife look to that now. Poke my head in here. Where is Mazubazu? It's not going onto Thingiverse yet. 2x RGM DAC. I've got to finish the entirety of the party for this group. Yes, this is a specific set of characters, and without the entirety of the party, and probably not until after I've sent them off to the people who play them, I won't do the full, the full array of characters. Okay, now once again, now the last one is coming down from here. And then one more. Bink. Now, frame. Yeah, it looks pretty smooth. Let me go ahead and smooth there, smooth there, smooth here, smooth here. That's his bandolier. Subtool, select him, make the belts invisible, because now we have to make the doublet. And the way we're going to make the doublet is we're going to not bother with the sleeves because they'll be covered by the jacket sleeves, but we're going to make the really tight and collared vest that is the classic doublet. Again, I'm going to make it slightly different from the fan art that I saw. There is no official character design for this character, thankfully, which means whatever I decide to make him look like is technically good enough. There's some things that are definite, like, the fact that he will have an eye patch. Although which eye it is seems to change. Now I'm going to make this smaller, and I'm going to zoom in a bit and trim off the top here. Then draw down and then draw up. And I have my nice sharp collar there. Now I'm going to extract it at 0.02. extract, accept, draw, draw. That draw is to get rid of the masking so that I don't double dip on the various things. We're going to polymesh it at 256, dynamesh, or dynamesh it at 256, and then before I subdivide it for more detail, I'm going to smooth it. And that smoothing will help me make it easier to blend into him when I finally get all of this into one single piece. Now I'm making this smaller and blending a little bit more here. Okay. And then I've got to, next thing I gotta do is now I've got to make the bottom. I gotta see where that belt is. Okay, I know where the belt is now. And I've got to and once again, this will be mostly covered by both the belt and the jacket, so I only have a little bit to worry about. Now we go to extract at 0.02, accept, draw, draw, baby, draw, digital inferno. Oh, no, I don't want that, I want this. This, nah, no. Ah! Wrestling on the selections happens sometimes, by the way. And change this to 256. Dynamesh! And before I do anything else, I blend it. I blur it into the pants, into the shirt, into where the belt is, and stuff like that. Now, let's see. Okay, I have to select the bandolier, go to move topological, and make it big! And kind of drag it out a little bit. Make it a bit more like that. Yeah. Just a little bit. And I need to make the jacket visible, and from the jacket I need to make sure to pull it out here, out beyond where the doublet and stuff like that are. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to select the belt and move it in, because we don't need the belt on the back. It's entirely hidden. So now we're going to select our buddy here, and we're going to hide the belts and the jacket. We're going to merge the lower pieces. We're going to merge the pieces of this into one, and we're going to divide it a couple times until it's roughly on par resolution wise with our buddy. We're going to merge him down. Now that we got that, we're going to geometry and we're going to dynamesh it 768 again. And now, shrink the mouse and blend in the collar, the waist part, shrinky dinky, in the collar. Don't need to worry about the back because it's covered by the coat. And now we go to slash. Oh, no we don't. First we go to layer, to inflate. We're going to subtract. We're going to shrink. And then we're going to make a nice little divot here. Nice little divot here. Nice little divot here. Nice little divot here. A lot of this might end up being covered up by belts, but the fact that it's here will make it a lot easier to deal with. And here, and here. Then we're going to add. And actually we need this kind of smooth inside each of these divots just to make it a little bit less chaotic in there. Now we're going to increase our Z intensity and we're going to draw on our lacing across the chest and waist. Then we're going to, well, first I need to, whoop. Yeah. I'm going to subtool, make the belt visible, make the bandolier visible. You see, it's, the thing is, what we've done, yes, we now have to move the bandolier a little bit here, but it's at least visible as laces. That's all we really need. Now the next thing we need to do is we use slash, shrinky dinky the mouse, about there, and we're going to draw in the center seam of the doublet, because it has one. That one didn't do that well. And to there. There. And that's all we really need for our doublet. Now we're going to turn on the bandoliers again and belt. This time we're going to that belt. Oh, first bandolier, we're going to subdivide it one more time. And then the belt, we're going to subdivide it a couple times because what we're getting ready to do is make the buckle. To make the buckle, we need to make it a square, and we need to make sure that it's at least partially visible in the coat. So we're going to draw one here, come down, draw across to here, come down. Now we're going to extract at point 2. Bing. Accept. Draw. Go back up to the belt. Draw. And then on this buckle, we're going to Dynamesh it as it is. Well, no, we're not. Dynamesh it at 256. Then before we subdivide it, we need to make the mouse bigger. And using the mouse instead of the stylus, round it off a bit. So that way, whoop, way too strong. I forgot about, I need to round it off just a bit. Because most are made of rounded metal. Yeah, there we go. And grab this corner. And that's the upper torso underneath the jacket. We're gonna, once again, we're gonna tweak the jacket in a little bit. Now, we're gonna hide the jacket. I'm going to get some soda. Thud. And now we're going to deal with his pants. Well, I don't know about you, Crazy J and 2XR. I'm just a wee bit insane right now. Okay, so what we have is knee-high cuffed boots with slightly baggy pants. So we'll zoom in. We'll zoom in. And we are going to make the cuff by making the mouse just a wee bit bigger. And draw on a mask. This is not the mask of Zorro. So if you know anyone named Bruce Wayne, he can watch without losing his parents. Yes, I went there. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't walk around with them. Ba-do-do-do-do-do. And yes, that was reference to an old song that was older than most of the people in the 3D printing discords. Really makes me feel old, even though it's older than I am. Yeah, anyway, we're going to extract it at 0.03. Extract, accept, draw, and Dynamesh at 256. The reason I'm doing these different numbers is 128 tends to be a lot more, larger polygons, softened slopes. 256 gives us a nice, sharp edge for things like these cuffs, and 768 for the body is almost needed to get the detail for like the hands and things like that. So, yeah. Now we're going to actually subdivide it. Well, I just want you to do. And then with the slashy slash, I'm going to go up, down, there. Oh, that was way too high. We're going to go up, down, I see why. Make the mouse smaller. Yeah. Up, down. Oh. Up straight. And then up one, down one. And then I'm going to use Alt to very light brush, sharpen the edge. There we go. That's a nice split. Okay. We're going to do something similar over here. Go all the way up. Whoop. Let's start from the top and go all the way down. And then down and just kind of okay, and then Alt to sharp. Oh, too sharp. Sharpen the edge. And that's our cuff. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. Delete door. Frame. That's the cuffs, but now we need to make the baggy pants. So that's actually going to be sculpting on him. I'm going to make the mouse a little bit bigger, go to inflate, and make this inflate a little bit soft, a little bit light. I'm just going to kind of, whoa, that's right, I need to change focus shift to 0. There we go. I just need to kind of just very gently bring out, especially following gravity. And then kind of smooth out that. Actually, here, There we go. Oh, and then yeah, here we go. Let's start bigger mouse and just kind of inflate down this little. It's going to hang down more than it will puff out. So. Okay. Now we're going to standard, going to much smaller size, increasing the intensity a bit. We're going to draw in some, well, still too big, some wrinkles. Okay. And then we go back to slash. We turn it down just a bit. We gotta add, and we draw on the bottom third of the wrinkles. Now why the bottom third? Gravity, dear boy, gravity! And this is going to help exaggerate the folds at the wrinkles, which the end result will be it'll catch dry brushing easier. Sploosh, sploosh, sploosh. Okay. So here. And here. Okay, once I get these done, I'll be able to go in and do the undercuts for the wrinkles. That's the underneath, to kind of sharpen underneath the wrinkles. Okay, and then now I'm going to Z-sub underneath to kind of sharpen the edge of the wrinkles. Let's make it a little bit stronger because I need it a little bit stronger. And come under here and down. Okay. Now the other leg, we get some undercuts here and here. Once again, we want to make sure it's the underside of the wrinkle that gets these cuts, not the top side. I've said this before. You'd be surprised, even if the detail doesn't get carried through on an FDM print, how the impression of it does. Just the it feels more natural because the detail is almost there. It's the right volume. Okay. So there's our pants and our doublet. And then there is the coat. So we're going to select the coat, and once we're going to go back to our move topological, make the mouse bigger. We're going to bring this out. We're going to bring this out. We're also going to bring the whole right side out a bit. Yeah, and we're gonna and we're gonna go to him, and I'm going to use the inflate tool, much smaller than this, to inflate these shoulders to about the right size. Just drop this down. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about it. Okay. Now we're gonna bring this up. We're going to do a lot of the detailing in the coat after we've fused it in with the body. Meanwhile, let's go and select this thing. And we're going to move this one little section of it right up here on the shoulder is going down. I'm going down. I'm yelling timber. Okay. Now we go back to the coat and we're going to move it up a couple. Frame. I'm going to dynamesh it, or I'm going to subdivide it a little. Inging, just to make it softer. Oh. Don't tell me I just froze the brush. Okay, good. Delete lower. There we go. Now, with that move topological chosen, I just noticed that I need to move this out a bit because the button on one of the things was... Now I need to make the pirate goat color. I can use what I've done before in the past as an example. Orc. Orc. Oi. Oi, oi, oi. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to do something similar. Okay. Now, first things first, shrink this mouse down. And we're going to select here and here and here and here. Let's bring it down some. Shrink the mouse. Deselect and draw across just to make it a bit sharper. No, because it needs to be down here. Okay. Now we're going to subtool and extract at 0.2. Accept. Draw. Select the coat, draw. And we've got our first color. And this one's, we're just going to dynamesh at 128. And I'm going to subdivide it a couple times. Delete lower. Now we're going to draw on the rest of the collar. I'm going to do this by actually, I just remembered I forgot something. I forgot to turn off back-facing mask so it don't go too far. And I'm going to come over here just a little bit to sharpen it up. Okay, and then here. Did this? No, it didn't. Okay, so we got to go in with a small brush, hide everything else. Go in and Okay. Oh. Okay. Now we frame out. And we extract at point 2, accept, draw, smooth that away. Oh, I see what happened there. So we're going to go to geometry, dynamesh it, unsmooth, subdivide it a couple times. One more time. Okay. Now we're going to use slash, and we're going to draw by drawing the line and hitting 1 to make it deeper a couple times. We're going to draw in our little there we go. And then we're going to use layer to make the buttons. One, two, 3, 4. Now when I frame out and turn everything on, it's looking pretty good so far. So the next step is to come up here and hide everything but the coat. And merge down. And then geometry, dynamesh. Now that I've dynameshed it, I can now blend in the sleeves. Oh. Bring that to 100, smooth it out. I'm going to draw on the shoulder seam here in a little bit. But then we also have to make our wrist cuffs. And I'm not going to draw too many wrinkles on the coat itself except for the very back, because these things were much heavier cloth. Okay. Now, I need to kind of bring this out a little, just enough to where I can kind of smooth it into one. And the same thing over here. And here. And smooth it. And then we're going to exaggerate the peak of the shoulder, because that's something else that the coats do, is they exaggerate up here. This is where we're going to be drawing our seam between the sleeve and the chest. Okay. And over here. Now, like I said, I still got the cuff of the sleeve to do, and some wrinkles on the jacket. The cuff on the sleeve is going to be very similar in design to the cuffs in the boots. And it'll help not only tie it together, but it's also pretty accurate for the kind of jacket that it is. Okay. Now we go to slash. Shrink it a little bit and draw in our seam. A little bit bigger. Okay, then. Okay, so now it's time for the wrist cuffs. But before I do that, I gotta pop my wrist. So I've been sculpting for a little over an hour, not quite an hour and a half, because we spent a lot of time talking before the sculpt. Now, next thing is using the mouse, because it's best that way. I'm going to select most of the forearm, because it's going to be a big old cuff. You know, think Captain Hook from Peter Pan, or from, well, Hook. If you know, there's a slight design difference, yes. Part of it being that Hook is a old man, and Hook, and he's just kind of barely middle-aged in the standard classic Peter Pan. My brain went erp. It could have been because I was hearing a pig squealing from the other room, and I know she's watching one of those police camera things. It makes me like, what is going on? For those who don't know, I take care of my mother, who's 7 years old, can't live on her own anymore. And now we're going to extract it at 0.03. Extract, accept, draw, and then on him draw. Back to them, we're going to Dynamesh at 256 because we want a little bit sharper frame. Okay, now, first things first, we're going to, using slash, we're going to draw in our little cuff divisors. Alt, very light compression. Okay, there we go. And again on the underside, we're going to move this down. We're going down. Why is that song always coming to my head even when I can't stand that song? Yeah. By keeping a similar style on the cuffs that we had on the boot cuffs, we're kind of unifying the whole look. Man, it really ties the room together. Okay. Now we're going to add on little cufflinks on these with a much smaller brush. Pretty high. Draw on a bulge. Actually, no, we need to subdivide a couple times before we do this. Draw on a bulge and hit 1 to make it more of a ball. Draw on a bulge and hit 1 to make it more of a ball. Yep. Bears ball. Bears ball. Frame. And now let's make everything visible except for the rapier, and that just the stuff we've made tonight. Or we've made just now. Okay. I'm thinking that clothing-wise, he's pretty much done. Just gotta add some wrinkles to the elbow and to the back of the cloak. The elbow, we're gonna do it entirely with the slash button, slash brush. I'm gonna start with the adds. And we're gonna make it a little bit bigger than that. And then we're going to come in from here to here, from here to here, here to here. And then we're going to go in there, there, and one in here. Then we're going to subtract here. Okay, that's good enough. It gets the point across at least. And then we're gonna come down from here. And from up here and down there. And we're gonna subtract and go in between. Just enough to get the point across. Now we're going to grab, use a move topological, and a brush about the size of the elbow, and we're going to grab and pull it down just a bit. To kind of help sharpen the joint. We're going to do the same thing over here. Frame. And now the only thing left to do on here before I start doing the hands and the hair and the hat is we need some rather large wrinkles on the back. And what's going to happen is it's going to be here. And then we're going to slash need add. And then we're going to sub under here, under here, under here, and under here. There. Now comes the hands, and the hands are, oh, before I do the hands, let's go ahead and merge most of it back down just to make some room. Okay, now we select him. We're going to make the rapier and the hat visible because we're getting ready to sculpt on the hands. And so what we're going to do, we're going to shrink it, mouse, and we're going to inflate, and we're going to make down to about 10. There we go. We're going to deflate inside the hand, and then re-inflate to kind of blend it back. And then I'm going to hit smooth to blend it back to normal. Now, knuckles. Yes, we need echidnas. Make sure the mouse is about the same width as the fingers. And we're kind of just going to draw on where the knuckles would be, and then we're going to draw on where the tendons would be. This was something I was shocked to discover is actually visible on the resin printer. It's remarkable. Then we're going to go for the knuckle here, and then the knuckle here. Then we're going to go just a little bit higher, a little bit equal, a little bit lower. A little bit higher, a little bit equal, a little bit lower. Then we're going to smooth them. So the whole purpose of them is to make it into finger bits instead of Vienna sausages. And then we're going to smooth the backs of these a little. We are then going to take our slash brush. We're going to gently draw in the inside joints, and we're going to draw in between the fingers. Now we go around to the back of the hand. Increase the intensity just a little. We're hitting 1 because that repeats the step. And 1. Now we're going to zoom in. We're going to hide the props, simply because we need to actually see what we're doing. So, go back to inflate, and then knuckle, 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 beep, 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 and then smooth. Yay. Knuckle, 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 and smooth. Yes, most of this hand is hidden inside the rapier, but not all of it, and we want to make sure that what does show up out of the rapier can pass for having been a normal finger once. Oh, that reminds me. In here, we need to really expand. And now we go to slash. And let's see, draw there. And draw in the rest of the finger bits. And we make the props visible. And now we frame. Okay, we're almost done. We got just a couple things left to go. While we have the props, we're going to subdivide them a couple times. Delete lower. And before we do the props themselves, we need to make hair. Fortunately, Andy's got very basic hair. His name is Andy. Sorry it took so long to get back to you, but it's kind of hard to see you. I only have one screen. If I had multiple screens, or somebody in my ear telling me, "Hey, to talk to you," probably be a lot easier. But I don't. But he's got a very simple, basic haircut, which, fortunately, we can easily handle and easily draw. And most of this will be hidden under the hat anyway. Okay, what I'm going to end up doing is, after I draw his hair, I'm going to make the hat visible and then drag what hair's not affected down. Okay, now burp. First thing is we got to cut in the locks of hair. And part of this is going to be drawing in the part. And then down that way, and then from here it's all just down to major locks going this way. And then I'm just gonna dig in between the locks. I don't have that much left to do. Now go in and draw each little basic edge on this hair. Because see, when you're drawing hair, you're not drawing the individual strands. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work well, at least. What you're drawing is you're drawing the basic shape of the locks, especially when there's multiple locks. Okay, now let's frame. And I'm going to grab move and shrink it a bit, and then just kind of drag it down to kind of make it a little bit more locks and not strokes. Okay, now make the hat visible. We can already see there's issues that we got to clear up, so we're going to first off make it bigger mouse, and we're going to smooth out what's currently visible, and that's not going to work. So we're going to use move topological. Yay. Move topological. Going to use move, not move topological. Make it bigger. Grab and move down. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to kind of squish the hair in. And after this, there's only 2 more things left to do, and that's the feather in the hat and his base. Oh wait, no. We also have to do his eye patch. Well, let's go ahead. Going to go down to here where it says polygroups, and I'm going to auto group. Now I'm going to select that. Oh look, now I can turn off the other subtools. And zoom in. Okay, now I'm going to shrink it. And I'm going to use the slash tool for most of this. Draw in basically the sub. Oh. No. Alright, now we're just gonna draw in the feathery bits on the feather. And I'm going to have to subdivide it one more time. Or 2. Okay, now let's just go ahead and redraw some of these deep cuts. Because we've got to give it the feeling of being a feather. We don't have to go all the way to the root because the root is mostly hidden, but we still need to draw in there. And then we're gonna loop up here to emphasize the okay, and then here I really should have a problem. Yeah, I really need to try and make this as symmetrical as possible, except I can't. So what we do is we go up, gonna make sure I mark where the That'll do. Because I had to make sure I marked where the top and bottom edge. And then, beep, beep. Okay. There we go. Alrighty, so now we make everything visible. Frame. We have our swashbuckler. There's Andy. We're going to merge down. I decided not to do the eye patch because it's actually something you can get pretty much paint on. And now we have to append one more. And this is going to be base. Now, I frame on the base because it's all about the base. No treble. Geometry divided a couple times. Delete lower. And now we're got to deformation, where the first thing we got to do is offset. Try and then by Y to okay. And now this is going to be offset by Z. Oh, no. By X. And no Z. Now I'm going to go for the move topological, make it huge. I'm just going to kind of grab the toe. Whoop! Wrong subtool. Grab him, grab the toe. And move it up. Whoop. What the hell is wrong with move topological? No. Go back to move. Grab the bottom of this feet and pull up just a bit. Yeah, there we go. Foot, pull up just a bit. Pull the rest of the foot down. Just a bit. Okay, now we have our swashbuckler on his base. I merge down. And now, with our little guy ready, I can put the tablet up, and I go to Z plugin and open up. I now have this whole diagram beside me. And take a brief break. What this diagram does, it decimates the results. Now we don't have the results yet because we haven't fused it into one mesh. And the way we fuse it into one mesh is Dynamesh. And right now we're looking at 1.918 million polygons. We hit Dynamesh, and that all fuses, well, it's processing mesh spaces, and there's now 1.081 million polygons. And now the next thing we do, if we zoom in, we'll notice that all the pieces have been fused together. Even the feet have fused to the base. It's all one solid piece now. One manifold surface. Perfect for printing. So, we go over here. Now, because I've increased my detail over some of my previous ones, I'm going to increase the poly count. This is going to 150,000 polygons, 75,000 points. I click it. Analyzing mesh. And we get this little percentage countdown. You'll see it right about here in just a minute or two. No. When it does that, that's a bad thing. So we go back one. Well, if it'll go back one, which is no, gotta go forward. Yeah. We're going to subdivide, and then 755. 755. The reason we're doing this is to. There was apparently a problem somewhere that it didn't like. We are now at 1.026. We're going to decimate 150,000 triangles. And once again, you're going to see right about here somewhere the orange line. After it finishes computing, please wait. Oh no. Okay, now let's try. I forgot to turn off the Dynamesh. Come on, let me give me that little. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There's that orange line. And it has absolutely nothing to do with University of Tennessee or University of Texas. Reading go Z file. Poly count is 150,012. Highly detailed. Ready for the duel. And now we export this. Under Outside Xbox as Andy figure. And so would it be. Now I have two of these left. I've done Luke's half-orc bard, Ellen's wood elf druid, now Andy's human swashbuckler rogue. Next comes Mike's dragonborn fighter, And Jane's tiefling warlock that's obsessed with eldritch blasting everything in sight. Yeah, that should do it. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to... Where's my streaming? There's my streaming. I'm going to go back to the main camera. Hey! Ring-a-ding-ding-a-ding-a-ding-ding-a-ding-ding-a-ding-ding-a-ding-ding. And that is how I do my minis. In case you're wondering, in case you didn't get it from the start, I have made a low poly basic geometry figure with the rough proportions for a decent heroic scale 32 millimeter figure. And I have a couple props like that rapier. I pose it, and then I start sculpting on that base geometry once I've exported it into ZBrush. This means that I could get a miniature complete in just under 2 hours just now, because I spent quite a bit after 8 just shooting the breeze. And thank you, Narthor. Now, I have it saved. I'm probably going to render the figure before I go to worry about printing it. I should note this is the thumb drive that came with the Anycubic Photon. I decided I'm just going to go ahead and use this for the Photon until it dies. Simply because I don't know how it is with the Photon and maximum memory it can read. But I know there's some devices that have a maximum memory that they can read. Like, well, I used to have a device labeled Soundwave. That was a working MP3 player. And if you tried to put in an SD card of, micro SD card of more than 2 gigabytes, it couldn't read. Go figure. Anyway, yeah, for those who didn't see it, oh, this is so amazing. I love this so much. I got an Anycubic Photon. And I got some amazing results. Test figure? Calibration cube? The very first thing I printed was a mini. Ha ha ha. And it came out perfect. So, next step would be simply to take the file and load it into the Anycubic slicer and set it up and send it on its way. Admittedly, I have a lot of miniatures in the queue ahead of it. But we'll get around to it. Anyway, it is now 10:02. I have been broadcasting for just over 2 hours. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and hold my hand up. And this is because of Twitch's innate, processing lag. And just in case I've got my own lag. And when I can see it go to 1, I'm going to stop broadcast. So I'm going to go ahead and start counting down. I would like to thank y'all for joining me. And if you are watching the archive of this on YouTube, like, subscribe, whatever. You don't have to. I mean, it's not like a lot of people watch it on there. So, next show is Sunday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. And I will see y'all later in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lag, 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 lag.